Ever felt like you're just, drowning in information? You need to quickly get well-informed on something complex, but the sheer volume is just, well, it's overwhelming, isn't it? We've all been there. Today, we're going to try and cut through some of that noise. We're doing a deep dive into mastering the Advanced Performance Management exam, APM for short. And look, this isn't just about passing an exam, although that's important. It's really about understanding the strategic role of management accounting. How it informs planning, how it helps with control, and ultimately how it actually helps organizations get better, improve their performance. So our mission today is to unpack the APM exam. We'll look at the structure, the syllabus, and crucially, the examiner's recommended approach. And we're drawing this directly from official guidance, specifically key bits about the examiner's approach for candidates from September 2022 onwards. The aim is to give you a clear, kind of actionable roadmap. Okay, so let's unpack this then. The APM syllabus itself is pretty comprehensive, right? It's structured across 6 key areas that build this holistic view of performance management. First up, you've got strategic planning and control. This really emphasizes needing that bigger picture view, integrating internal factors, external factors. The real skill here, I think, is pulling together all these different points into one overall strategic approach. Then we move into performance management information systems and developments in technology. Now, what's important here isn't necessarily deep technical knowledge of, say, specific software. It's more about understanding the design features of good systems. And critically, the effect of these broad tech trends on decision-making, on recording. How does tech change how performance info flows through a company? Which leads us neatly into strategic performance measurement. This bit is all about applying the right techniques to evaluate performance, but across really diverse situations. We're talking private sector, public sector, not-for-profits, even multinationals and regulated industries. So lots of different contexts. Next, there's performance evaluation. This zooms in on those high-level techniques for evaluating and controlling performance, often the kind of thing you'd present to senior management or maybe independent clients. And woven through all of this, you have the professional skills section. This links into everything else, really highlighting the range of skills expected from a professional accountant today. And finally, employability and technology skills. This is the practical side, the digital skills you actually need for the computer-based exam. Things like accessing exhibits, pulling requirements from different places, and presenting your answers professionally using the exam software. Oh, and a key point, the syllabus gets reviewed annually, so you absolutely have to stay updated.
Yeah, that's a really good overview. And what's particularly insightful about that syllabus structure you just laid out is how it deliberately connects back to stuff you learned in earlier exams. APM. It builds significantly on PM performance management and MA, management accounting. It takes key ideas from those levels, but pushes them further, with a much bigger focus on synthesis and evaluation. Plus, it brings in more specialized techniques in current issues. So while you won't get retested in exactly the same way as PM, all that foundational PM knowledge, it's absolutely assumed. You'll just be using it in a much more critical way. And notes from SBL, Strategic Business Leader, that's really useful too. Often there's a bit of back and forth. What you learn in APM can help with SBL as well.
That's a crucial point, that assumed knowledge. It makes me wonder, what's maybe the biggest trap candidates fall into, thinking their PM knowledge is just enough?
That's a great question. I think the biggest trap is expecting it to be about recalling and applying formulas, like in PM tested if you could calculate, ATM test if you can evaluate and advise. It's a pretty significant mindset shift, actually. You're moving from, let's say, a technician role to being more of a strategic advisor.
Right, that sets the stage perfectly. So let's talk about the exam blueprint itself. It's 3 hours, 15 minutes, 2 distinct sections. Section A, that's the compulsory 50-mark case study, always a single big question based on an organization in a specific context. And the marks, 40 technical, 10 for professional skills. And here's the kicker. All the professional skills are examined right here in Section A. You'll be doing things like assessing methods for control, management, performance measurement, evaluating performance reports, maybe information systems, new strategies. Expect some calculations, sure, but also comparisons, recommendations. It often draws from syllabus areas A, B, and C, and the output format is usually specific, like writing a report for the board. Okay, and building on that exam design, Section B brings 2 more challenges. These are 2 compulsory 25-mark questions, both scenario-based. Each one has 20 technical marks and 5 professional skills marks. And for those professional skills, each question tests at least 2 skills, chosen from analysis and evaluation, skepticism, and commercial acumen. Syllabus-wise, one question will mostly be from Section D, performance evaluation, while the other could come from any other section.
And if we connect that to the bigger picture, Bringing in these professional skills marks from September 2022 is a really significant shift. It signals what's truly valued now. So you get marks for communication, analysis and evaluations, skepticism, and commercial acumen. But, and this is vital, you don't earn them through separate tasks. They're what we call embedded requirements, which basically means the skills are woven right into your technical answers. So if you're asked to critically evaluate a report, the way you critique it demonstrates your skepticism, your analysis skills. They should just be evident in the technical points you're making. Oh, it also worth mentioning the generic 20XX date format used everywhere now. That's deliberate. Keeps the questions timeless, stops people relying on specific real-world events that might go out of date.
That's fascinating. So the professional skills aren't tacked on. They are the answer in a way. It sounds like the biggest mental hurdle might not be learning new stuff, but maybe unlearning old study habits. With these skills embedded, how does that change time management in the exam? Do you still just allocate time based on the technical marks?
Yeah, it definitely requires a recalibration of what smart studying or smart exam technique looks like. You should still absolutely allocate your time based on the technical marks to the foundation. But you have to recognize those professional skills aren't something you do separately at the end. They're woven throughout. You earn them as you structure your points logically, as you apply analysis, as you show skepticism towards the data you're given. It means every minute spent on a technical point should also be a chance to demonstrate those professional skills.
That's such a critical point for anyone wanting to operate at that strategic advisor level. So how do you master this APM approach, especially with this integration of professional skills? The examiner outlines what they see as the best approach, which we can kind of boil down into 5 key pillars. Pillar 1. Cover the whole syllabus. Okay, this means really getting the connections between strategic, tactical, and operational levels. Think about that Dealin police specimen question. It's a classic example. It really made you apply performance measurement ideas like CSFs and KPIs specifically to a public sector context, even using things like league tables and links back to that Drucker quote, right? What gets measured gets done. Shows how powerful metrics are. Questions will expect you to evaluate methods, models, systems, processes, but importantly, applied coherently to the context. You need to consider the impacts on objectives, costs, reporting, IT systems, people, culture. It's all linked. And remember, APM builds on PM knowledge. It expects you to apply it in more complex situations, so you need that PM foundation to be solid. That holistic view is so important. I sometimes tell candidates, you could ace the PM calculations, but still struggle in APM if you can't connect, say, a variance analysis to what it means strategically for the company's culture or competitive position. It's really about going beyond just the mechanics and asking, so what? Why does this matter to the whole organization?
That makes total sense. Okay, pillar 2, apply your knowledge to the question scenario. This is about being able to assess and, crucially, tailor different performance management approaches. Profit versus value, financial versus non-financial, short-term versus long-term, tailoring it to the specific organization in the scenario. The key advice here is justify your advice using evidence from the scenario. Constantly ask yourself, does this actually meet the needs of this organization? The examiner often looks for a kind of 3-step process. First, assess the current situation. Second, consider how a new approach might apply maybe value-based management or a specific model like the performance pyramid or building block. Third, evaluate if it's genuinely going to be an improvement. This is precisely where you see the difference between an average answer and a really strong one. Think about it like this. A weak answer might just list the general pros and cons of, the balanced scorecard. An insightful answer, the kind that really scores well, would specifically argue why, say, the customer perspective of the scorecard is critical for this particular company in this scenario, backing it up with details from the case study. It's about saying this tool for this problem in this context because of X, Y, and Z from the scenario. Just throwing out jargon or rote-learned lists without that specific application, that won't get you very far.
That's a really clear before and after example. Okay, pillar 3, answer the question asked. Seems obvious, maybe. But it's a common trap. The examining team really focuses on those embedded requirements. Too often, candidates answer the question they wish had been asked rather than the one that was actually set. You only get credit when your answer is technically sound and directly relevant to the specific question being posed.
It sounds simple, but it takes real discipline during the exam. It means focusing on the specific verbs used in the question requirement. Are you asked to evaluate, recommend, critique, discuss? Each of those words demands a slightly different focus and structure for your answer. You've got to pay attention to that nuance.
Excellent advice. Moving to pillar 4, create information from data. With technology being so prevalent in business now, there's less need for strategic level exams to test extensive manual calculations. That's more for the earlier papers. In APM, it's much more about interpretation and analysis of data that's provided to you. You need to quantify your comments where possible, discuss the commercial implications, make the numbers understandable, maybe compare them to business activity levels or competitor performance, for instance.
Exactly. Don't just state, sales increased by 10%. Instead, you need to interpret something like, sales are up 10%, however, given our significant marketing investment and the entry of a new competitor, this growth rate might actually suggest a decreasing marketing ROI, which warrants a strategic review of our promotional mix. See the difference? You should aim for a big picture view. First, what's the overall goal here? Then, break the data down into meaningful chunks, focusing on the bits that explain the main changes or issues. And critically, you have to be selective. Don't just calculate everything possible. Focus on the strategic goals, the key drivers. Go beyond just repeating numbers from the tables. You're there to analyze, not just regurgitate.
Oh, that's a perfect example of adding value, which brings us to the final pillar, pillar 5. Add value to the organization. The core idea here is pretty straightforward. The answer you write should genuinely help the organization in the scenario address the issue raised in the question. Your comments need to be relevant, practical, and add tangible value to the problem at hand. They should provide real, actionable insight.
And this really brings up a fundamental point, doesn't it? What truly differentiates a strong APM candidate? It's not just knowing the models and theories off by heart, it's the ability to synthesize information, to evaluate options critically, and ultimately to create value from that knowledge within a specific, often messy, real-world context. It really is about making that leap from being a technician to becoming a genuine strategic advisor.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? Ultimately, succeeding in APM seems to come down to a few core things. Correctly applying methods knowledge to complex scenarios, definitely. Adopting that integrative, holistic approach we talked about. Demonstrating those comprehensive professional skills throughout your answers. And maybe most importantly, genuinely adding real value with your recommendations and advice.
Absolutely. It signifies a profound shift, really, away from pure rote memorization towards strategic application and critical thinking. The APM exam genuinely reflects what's expected in the real world of senior finance professionals today. It demands that you don't just know things, but you know how to use that knowledge effectively to solve complex business problems.
That's a powerful closing thought, and maybe something for you to mull over. How can you apply this kind of deep dive approach, this focus on synthesis, context, and value creation to your own learning and decision making? Whether that's getting up to speed on a new industry for work or tackling a complex project, what does adding value actually look like in how you consume and use information day to day?